这是一段让人活久见的视频。镜头一开始，美国博主坐在镜头前，满脸不敢置信地说出那句：“荷兰没收了安氏半导体，还说是为了国家安全。”他是那种典型的暴躁老哥类型，语言直接，语气火爆，却带着一点黑色幽默。视频一上线就引发全球网友热议，因为这一次他不是在骂中国，而是在骂欧洲的神操作。视频一开篇，美国博主就带着毫不掩饰的吐槽语气抛出核心事件：荷兰没收了安氏半导体，还查封了它，理由是在乎国家安全，怕中国哪天不供芯片，直接搞垮欧洲汽车业。可话音刚落，他就话锋一转，现在好了，中国真不给欧洲送芯片了，欧洲汽车制造业怕是要彻底崩溃，这就是他们所谓的保护安全，分明是自毁前程。这一句嘲讽点燃了整段视频的基调。
Netherlands, right, confiscated this company, right? They seized it because they cared about national security, because China, at any point in time, could crash the entire automotive sector in Europe if they did not provide the chips. Christ. So, you know what would push China over the edge to not want to provide you folks chips anymore? If you seized one of their companies. And so yeah, now China is no longer sending the chips to Europe. And because they're no longer sending the chips to Europe, it does look like the European auto manufacturing industry might completely and utterly fucking collapse. So literally, Europe was so smart in trying to protect their security, they may have in fact destroyed their security.
博主还忍不住翻了个白眼，总听人吹欧洲教育体系多牛，结果一个荷兰政府以国家安全为由查封公司，最后把自己拖进安全灾难，这高智商操作能给我解释解释吗？从他的话中可以感受到一种典型的美式吐槽，他既在批评欧洲的自负，也在揭示他们对中国产业链的误判。
As an American, I keep being told how amazing the European education system is, right? You see a fucking European, a French person, a German person, a Dutch person, they will not stop shitting on Americans about our education system and how fucking stupid we are. So please, dear Dutch, explain to me again how amazing your education system is, where your government fucking seized a company under, national security concerns, and in their actions of seizing the company, they have now put them into a national security disaster. Wow me with your amazing...
为了让观众搞懂来龙去脉，博主开始为观众补课。这家被查的公司叫安氏半导体，2019年左右被中国的文泰科技收购了。别以为芯片都是2纳米、3纳米的高精尖，安氏做的是50纳米的低功率芯片，又大又笨重，但胜在可靠便宜，专门装在汽车里，比如点火装置、燃油控制这些关键部位，少了它，车根本造不了。不同于我们平常理解的高端处理器，这些芯片并不需要几纳米的工艺，而是注重稳定性和成本，只要可靠、便宜就行。就像盖房子，没有地基，再漂亮的楼也塌。
There's this company called Nexperia. It was bought by a Chinese company they called WingTech back in like 2018, 2019, and they produce low-power chips for cars, for vehicles, right? So a lot of times when we think about processors, when we talk about silicon, right, there's this 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer, and all that kind of horse crap, right? Well, the reality is a lot of devices, a lot of things nowadays require CPUs, require processors, but they can be like 50 nanometer for anybody cares, right? They can just be big and bulky because they're going to get shoved into a car as long as they're reliable and cheap. And so Nexperia, what they do is they focus on that reliable and quote-unquote cheap processors to put into things like vehicles, especially into car vehicles.
博主揭露了更关键的细节，这事儿背后还有美国的影子。我以美国人的身份说句实话，是我们给荷兰政府施压，让他们处理安氏半导体。荷兰大概在9月底就动手了，把安氏国有化，美其名曰不能相信中国，怕中国害他们。可博主紧接着戳破了这个操作的漏洞，他们只想着查封总部，却忘了安氏的产能大多在中国。现在好了， 欧洲拿到了一堆律师、高管和人事，中国却攥着所有工厂。你查封我的公司，我凭啥还给你供芯片？这不是明摆着的事儿吗？这段可谓全场高能，观众弹幕里都是一片笑出声的表情。因为这个反讽太直接，欧洲以为通过国有化拿回了控制权，却忘了实际产能早已在中国。
I don't know. So the United States put the CEO of WingTech under like a ban for some reason. We don't like him for some reason. He did not slobber over Trump's ring or God knows fucking what. Look, I'm saying this as an American. I don't know why the fuck we hate this guy. Anyways, and because of that, we started putting pressure on the government of Netherlands to deal with Nexperia, right? So WingTech's CEO, they own Nexperia. So because we dislike WingTech's CEO, Netherlands needed to do something about Nexperia, right? So basically, Netherlands, last week, a couple weeks ago, they basically come in, it was the end of September, and so they nationalize, right? They confiscate Nexperia, the headquarters for Nexperia, basically from a national security standpoint. We can't trust China man, right? China man might do us harm. This is considered a product that's what they produce is a product that is valuable for national security. Ergo, we are going to nationalize it. We are going to confiscate this entire company. We are going to seize Chinese assets in order for security. The problem is this is a globalized world, and so basically they seized the headquarters. They seized the headquarters. A lot of the production capacity for Nexperia is actually in China. So basically, Europe got all the lawyers and executives and HR people, and China got all the factories. And so now China is no longer shipping these parts to Europe.
博主接着继续开炮，他用一个专业又接地气的比喻拆解了全球化供应链的关键。有人说欧洲自己也能产芯片，但他们只知其一，不知其二。就像做蛋糕，欧洲可能有面粉，但真正把面粉做成能吃的蛋糕，还得靠中国的封装环节。他拿台积电举例，之前台积电亚利桑那晶圆厂出了第一片晶圆，大家都鼓掌说不用依赖中国台湾了，可没人想过晶圆要运到中国封装才能用。现在安氏的情况也一样，欧洲就算有晶圆，没了中国的封装和生产，照样是一堆没用的硅片，谁在乎你有多少原材料，拿不出成品都是白搭。在视频中，他抛出了一个关键词，关键环节。他说，不管欧洲有多少工程师，多少文件，多少晶圆，只要最后的成品要在中国完成，那真正掌握权力的就是中国。这一观点一针见血。芯片制造流程复杂，从设计、晶圆生产到封装测试，任何一环断了，产品都无法落地。而中国在封装测试这一环节中占据全球60%产能，是整个供应链中不可或缺的存在。博主的结论很简单，也很直接。他们查封公司，结果发现自己被查封了。
As far as the manufacturing is concerned, again, I'm not a manufacturing expert. I know it's basically shut down the flow of the finished chips. Apparently, the idea, and this is kind of curious again with the globalized world, and what is actual resilience in a modern world. One of the things that's come up is that actually Europe still produces like the chips, but they then get packaged in China. So again, one of the questions, so TSMC and NVIDIA just talked about they created the first production grade wafer out of an Arizona fab, and everybody's clapping because that means we no longer have to rely on Taiwan to produce our chips. But the thing is, that's one stage. That's one stage. In a globalized world, you have products get shipped all around the world in order to be finalized, packaged into a component. And so one of the things here is they're also saying that Europe may actually have a lot of the ability to produce the chip, like the silicon, the wafers and things, but it gets packaged in China. And so however this falls out, the important thing to understand here is that China is the actual fucking linchpin for getting the finished good. Like even if Nexperia has the lawyers, and even have the HR people, and even they have the fucking wafers, if they can't turn that into a finished good, who the hell cares? But anyways, right, the Netherlands, right, confiscated this company, right? They seized it because they cared about national security, because China, at any point in time, could crash the entire automotive sector in Europe if they did not provide the chips. Christ. So, you know what would push China over the edge to not want to provide you folks chips anymore? If you seized one of their companies. I'm just saying. As I've said many times, don't be racist. But if you're gonna be racist, at least be effective with the racism. And so yeah, now China is no longer sending the chips to Europe. And because they're no longer sending the chips to Europe, it does look like the European auto manufacturing industry might completely and utterly fucking collapse. So literally, Europe was so smart in trying to protect their security, they may have in fact destroyed their security.
博主解释说，这件事对美国也会有连锁反应。如果他们退出全球供应链，不去赋权给每一个人，那必将走上种族歧视的破路。就现在，美国政府这些领导层什么都不懂的瞎指挥，全世界都得跟着遭殃。
And it looks like there will be follow-on effects for the United States. And this is my frustration with a lot of this. If we're not going to work together, if we're not going to be one big part of a global community and try to empower everybody, we are going to go down the racist route. All I'm saying is, could we get some of those old school racists in? Can we reanimate Henry Ford's body? That fucker was a racist piece of shit. He was also Henry fucking Ford. And all I'm gonna put on the table is if we are gonna be racist motherfuckers, can we get a few more fucking Henry Fords into the leadership positions? So they might be fucking bastards, but they're bastards that get shit done. Because the problem that we have right now is we have some racist, supremacist motherfuckers out there that apparently don't understand how supply chains work. And as I say, fuck around, and the entire world is going to find out. So Europe's auto industry braces for chip interference soon. U.S. automakers also likely to be exposed through smaller parts and electronics makers that rely on Nexperia chips. And do remember, with the whole supply chain, everybody's building on everything, right? And we've built up this supply chain over 3 decades. We built up the supply chain. If we want to do isolationism, if we want to back off of this kind of stuff, if we want to disengage from China,
博主从事件上升到对脱钩的批判，有人喊着跟中国脱钩，可他们根本不懂供应链是怎么回事。这条供应链是花了30年才建起来的，就像你家装修一个浴室都要花好几个月，现在想3个月推翻30年的成果，简直是做梦。他拿美国稀土协议举例。之前特朗普跟澳大利亚签85亿美元稀土协议，说明年就有用不完的稀土，可见处理设施、培训员工哪是1年能成的？这些人连基本事实都不看，就敢瞎指挥，最后坑的还是整个行业。
But I understand the concept. I can understand that fucking argument. But you cannot roll back what has been created over 3 decades in 3 fucking months. It doesn't work, right? Like with Trump, right? There's this whole thing with the rare earths with China. Anyways, we created an $8.5 billion agreement with Australia in order to get access to their rare earths. And Trump literally said, by next year, we're going to be swimming in rare earths. You're like, what? No. Again, if you want to create an agreement with Australia for rare earths, you want to break our reliance on China for rare earths, and you want to build up our capacity and all that kind of stuff. That is great. Again, I completely and 100% support. It doesn't fucking happen in 1 year, dipshits. As I talk about, have you ever actually had to install a new bathroom in your house? Right? Getting a new bathroom put into your house can take fucking months. And so if putting a bathroom in your house takes months, how long do you think it takes to find land for processing facilities, get the financing to build the processing facilities, build the processing facilities, get the employees, upskill the employees in order to be able to maintain the processing facilities and get all that shit? Do you think that might take a little bit longer than it takes somebody to put a bathroom into their house, right? I'm not playing fucking 5D chess, because 5D chess doesn't exist. I'm just looking at brass tacks. But
博主进一步延伸，他聚焦事件的后续影响。现在中国不给欧洲送芯片，欧洲汽车业已经在准备应对生产中断了。知情人士说，芯片短缺1周内就会冲击关键供应商，10到20天扩散到全行业，到时候可能不是减产，是直接停产。他还提到了博世等车企的反应，博世发言人都出来说面临重大挑战，希望各方尽快解决，说白了就是慌了。更有意思的是，这事儿还会连累美国，全球供应链是串在一起的，欧洲车企停摆，美国的零部件供应商、经销商也得跟着喝西北风，这就是搬起石头砸自己的脚。
Industry is preparing for production disruption because they're little fucking puppy dog lap dogs of the United States did some really stupid shit. The lap dogs of Trump pissed over all on, China's antique rugs, and China, man, just ain't so fucking pleased about it anymore. Anyways, Europe's auto industry is preparing for production disruption within days because of China's export restrictions on semiconductors made by Nexperia. Chip shortages are likely to hit key suppliers within a week, while the impact could spread across the entire sector within 10 to 20 days. According to people familiar with the matter who asked not to be identified, quote, the situation could lead to significant production restrictions, possibly even production stoppages in the near future, Hildegard Müller, who heads Germany's VDA auto lobby, said in a statement. Beijing has blocked Nexperia, a Dutch chip maker owned by China's Wingtech technology company, from exporting products made at its Chinese plants. The move came after the Dutch government seized control of the company under emergency laws meant to safeguard strategic production. Wow, how's that fucking going? I keep being told, as an American, I keep being told how amazing the European education system is, right? You see a fucking European, a French person, a German person, a Dutch person, they will not stop shitting on Americans about our education system and how fucking stupid we are. So please, dear Dutch, explain to me again how amazing your education system is, where your government fucking seized a company under, national security concerns, and in their actions of seizing the company, they have now put them into a national security disaster. Wow me with your amazing fucking intelligence.
博主补充了一个容易被忽略的细节：汽车零件的认证门槛。有人说找别的供应商不就行了？但汽车零件不是随便换的。比如安氏的芯片要装在车里，得扛住极冷极热的环境，还得保证点火、燃油控制不出错。新零件要通过认证才能用，这可不是几天能搞定的，得花好几个月。他反问：你能接受你买的车用的是没经过认证的临时零件吗？车企不敢赌，也赌不起。所以现在他们就算找到替代品，也赶不上停产的速度。
Anyways, car makers and their suppliers are holding crisis meetings with government officials to map out contingency plans, but have warned that sourcing and qualifying replacement components will take months, not days. And remember, with these parts going into cars, right? A part that goes into a television or whatever else, qualification level, who the hell knows? This stuff is going into cars. Cars may be in incredibly cold environments, it may be incredibly hot environments, right? Depending on what the little processor does, right? That might be, the ignition or the fuel control or whatever else. So they have to make sure that that's at least relatively reliable. So even if they get the parts from a different supplier, they have to be qualified, and qualifying shit takes fucking time. Anyways, the fallout is expected to extend beyond Europe, with U.S. automakers also exposed through smaller parts and electronics makers that rely on Nexperia chips. Again, the whole supply chain. People said the industry was blindsided by the Dutch government's move to take control of Nexperia after pressure from Washington, two of the people said. Volkswagen AG has set up a task force to assess potential exposure in its supply chain. Robert Bosch I don't know, whatever. The world's largest automaker said its expert teams are in close contact with Nexperia as well as other suppliers and affected customers to avoid or minimize any production restrictions. Quote, like other Nexperia customers, we are facing major challenges due to the current situation, a Bosch spokesperson said October 20th. Quote, we therefore hope for a swift resolution among the parties involved that will help ease the current supply bottleneck. A spokesperson for Mercedes-Benz Group, AG, said the company is monitoring developments with stakeholders, adding that the automaker has secured short-term chip supplies, but that the situation remains volatile and difficult to predict. Quote, we are working intensively with our partners to avoid potential supply gaps, a spokesperson said.
博主断言，我确实觉得中国正在赢。博主总结了事件背后的核心矛盾，现在的问题不是要不要脱钩，是有些人根本不懂怎么搞经济。企业要的不是高关税、强管控，是稳定，哪怕关税高，只要定下来，企业能规划。但现在关税一天一个样，政策说变就变，谁还敢投资？谁还敢规划未来？他最后感慨，中国现在在供应链里的位置，不是说替代就能替代的。荷兰强安市，美国施压，最后把欧洲汽车业逼到停产边缘，这不是国家安全，是愚蠢。接下来就看这些人怎么收拾烂摊子了，反正最后吃亏的还是普通消费者和企业员工。
So yeah, the current dipshittery between the world and China continues, and I do feel that China is winning. As an American, I'm just looking at this like, really? This is our plan? This is what we're going for here? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all falls out, especially as companies start to go bankrupt, especially as companies start to actually fail. So one of the things we have right now is we have a rather robust supply chain. And in a rather robust supply chain, you have many companies doing many different things. One of the big questions that's gonna start to come up is with everything going on. And you have to look at this, again, in a holistic, a macro view, right? This isn't simply, Netherlands simply nationalizing Nexperia. That's its own thing, right? You have the trade war. You have the trade war between China and the United States. You have China now, restricting rare earths materials. You have Trump talking about 100% stacking tariffs on China starting November 1st. So we're going to go back up to 145% tariffs on that. We have so many dynamics going on in the world now, and it's very difficult for people to plan in the future. Remember, for businesses, the reality for businesses, they do not need good regulations. They do not need a good tax system. They do need stable, right? If you have a stable system, I can scribble down a plan and I can try to figure out, even in idiocy, how I can try to make a profit, right? The problem is if tariffs go from nothing one day to 50% the next day to 150% the next day, down to like 20%, could be back up to 150%. The problem isn't even actually the tariff rate itself, right? 150% tariff is still fucking stupid. But if it was just there, people could understand and then figure out what they're going to do. The issue is tariffs and all of this stuff is all over the board. So what happens when individual links in the supply chain start to catastrophically fail? And then if you have this chain for the supply chain and you start to have failures, how many failures can the supply chain take before the supply chain fails? Right? You look at a car in the modern world, there is just a tremendous number of components that go into that car from just any number of suppliers and vendors, right? If certain parts are no longer accessible, what happens to that end product car, right? This is bad. This is bad. A lot of people say, Eli, you have TDS. And I'm like, damn right I do. Damn fucking right I do. Right? We are seeing the failures coming down the pike.
最后，博主气到爆粗口，他抛出问题引发思考。你们觉得这场芯片风波最后会怎么收场？是欧洲低头求中国，还是硬扛着让车企倒闭？作为美国人，我看着这一切只能叹气，这就是我们所谓的计划。连基本的供应链逻辑都搞不懂， 还谈什么竞争？他没有给出标准答案，却用一连串接地气的分析，让观众看清了以安全之名行保护之实的荒谬。在全球化的今天，你中有我，我中有你才是现实。靠强抢和脱钩解决问题，最终只会反噬自己。
And yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens, I suppose. Right, Trump is doing what Trump's doing, but again, you look at the Republicans. The Republicans are fucking welfare queens, right? They are just castrated fucking poodles pissing over themselves, trying to prove the world that they're fucking alpha dogs. It's like, we don't need fucking dogs. I don't need a Congress of dogs. That would be cute. That would be adorable. I would love a picture of the Congress filled with dogs. But for the actual Congress, could we get some fucking human beings in there, right? And so that's the thing. Like here in the United States, Trump is doing what Trump is doing. The Republican Party, for some reason, has just shrugged off everything that I thought they believed, right? Whether or not it really is, right? The idea is the Democrats are for blue collar and the Republicans are for corporate business and globalization and all that. So the Republicans don't give a damn about massive taxation now. They don't seem to give a damn about businesses. They don't seem to give a damn about globalization. They don't seem to give a damn about anything that they used to care about. Again, the Democrats are still screaming over pronouns. They're still having committees to make sure that everybody uses the appropriate pronoun. Fuck. So I do not know how this does not end in a complete and utter fucking disaster. And when things break, they are hard to rebuild. They are very hard to rebuild. So anyways, I don't know. What do you think about this? What do you think about the continued idiocy